Welcome to the Dangerous Man Podcast, where we talk about how to become a better man, take responsibility for our mission, create value for others, and the many failures and lessons we've learned along the way. Stay dangerous. Welcome back to the Dangerous Man Podcast. It is your host, John Kostohris, joined by
co-host Adam Thooft. What is up, boys?
How are we doing today? And we actually got our special guest and one of the members of Dangerous Men Global, in our one of our founders and in our Dangerous Men's Club, Daniel Jingdahl. Welcome back.
I probably am your biggest Scotch drinker.
Oh yeah, we may or may not have a Scotch collection, particularly for our men's club nights. So yeah, that's pretty cool.
I'm trying to allocate more of our funds towards Scotch, but it's not always the best investment when you just started. So
yeah,
though we do like the Scotch.
It is very tasty indeed. Adam and I have this saying where we essentially had this. It was yesterday actually, and we were actually sitting in the basement podcast, but right before we started podcasting, it was about like noon yesterday, and Adam was like, "I mean, you should probably take over the story here, but I'll get you the idea of what you probably like." What is he saying? I don't know yet.
What is he talking about? I did a lot yesterday.
So when we were writing stuff up on a massive whiteboard. We have this amazing whiteboard, and
the biggest whiteboard in town.
As you can tune in the last episode to hear more about that story, but it's 8 feet wide. We'll just leave it at that. Anyways, we wrote these bullet points, and we had this one-liner we put up, which was related to basically when we were preparing to publish, when you're publishing the blog, or when you're ready to publish maybe a YouTube channel or video, or if it's a podcast, if it's an audio form like a podcast. That what was the saying you said about how you kind of get in the state of mind or whatever, and before we start, what has to happen before we start?
You gotta get the attitude right, and the content will flow.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, yeah.
So before we hit the record button today, I was getting a little goofy.
Oh yeah.
Because I need to get the funnies up in order to freaking get it.
Absolutely. It's there's a fun part of I think when you're a man, you need to have other men in your life, right? When I was this was probably it was like the summer after my sophomore year in high school, right? So I was 16? Is that 15? Something like that.
I think like 16, yeah.
16.
And so I was in St. Paul, Minnesota, where I'm from, where I've born and raised, and where I currently reside. Shout out. And essentially, I was with this group of guys, and we had called this group. We were Knights, we said, and it was a group focused on prayer. A bunch of Christian guys going to church together every day, and we've talked about this on I've talked about this before, but to kind of recurse a little bit about it. It was we would go for runs and we'd work out and we'd have poker nights and lots of guys getting together and it's kind of like a sports game, but without all the fans in the stadium, and like you're actually that's a pretty good description of life. It's like playing and winning with other dudes doing things that are epic and meaningful, and we would do these insane workouts, and I could get into that, our Robbins workouts. But yeah, so it's just when that's kind of a story, is it's kind of like the epicness you feel when you're shoulder to shoulder. And I just remember like the feeling of running with 6 guys around you, and we'd run a couple miles, right? And it was hot summer days, but it was cool summer mornings, right? And in the feeling of the cool air on my skin, and these dudes that were like, I mean, you could talk about this, Danny, but I remember when day one, you're like, yeah, I'm not a runner at all, but well, let's do this. Yeah. I've been committed to this. This is awesome. This is epic. And it was like,
as he comes out wearing jeans.
Oh yeah,
to run.
I love jeans.
I'm like, why?
I think I quickly switched to shorts. Or did I keep the jeans for a while?
I just remember, I think the first day you're wearing jeans. I don't recall anything else besides that.
Yeah, because I remember eventually wearing athletic shorts.
Yeah, because you realized, hey,
hot.
maybe
It's
having
very
my
hot,
legs
yeah.
breathe while I'm running is a good idea.
It's like, gosh, I remember we'd take off our shirts because it's just sweating so much. It's like,
You do this cool shirt tuck where you can take your shirt off and then you could tuck it in the back of your running shorts, and then you could kind of just, it was kind of a funny thing we did.
it's like Mr. Maslow was over there, Greek Olympian body, just.
I will say swimmers, as David was a swimmer, right?
Yeah.
Very, very chiseled. Very never underestimate a swimmer and their physique and their strength, because that is a full body if I've ever seen it workout and sport. But that story, I think it exemplifies something, the meaning in my heart, the tenacity, right? And maybe you go after this, Danny. What was it like when you give just a quick maybe when, where, what, whatever, where were you at, I guess, and then you heard about what we were doing with Knights and this group of men, and what was the feeling maybe before, and what was the feeling after when you were part of the group? Like, what was that like for the first time? Like, what was in your heart? Does that kind of make sense?
I think at the time I wanted to run away, actually. I got to remember my timelines, though. I realized with time, my brain shifts stories to different, segments. But,
yeah. So you're saying at, the
really,
beginning, you were like,
really
I
high
don't
school,
want to
probably.
be here.
I just, I don't know. I grew up big family in the middle. So it's like the oldest kid is going off to college, and that's important for the parents to try and figure out. Oh, they got babies still. So it's like they're just trying to hold everything down and whatnot. And I think just being in the middle, you just kind of are like no one really. Maybe this is partly just me, but it's hard for them to give you direct attention, at least quality attention, I want to say. And I don't hold this against my parents. It's just sort of the nature when you have 10 kids.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to give all of them a lot of attention.
Yeah,
just because of how many there are.
And so I'm not saying don't have 10 kids because of that, but just know that that's a slight effect that will most likely happen. But I also realized part of it too was I didn't initiate at all. So it was and it was funny because it reminded me of, I have people in my life that'd be like, hey man, you never reach out or whatever. I'm like, dude, you never reach out. You can initiate if it's important to you. It's it's not just me. But anyways, I remember when we started waking up early and going, dude, you're tired, but you felt so accomplished because you woke up and got out of bed early, and the summer, and in the summer, at least in Minnesota, it's cool in the mornings and it smells good. I don't know.
We're talking low 60s.
Yeah, it's
it's like a fresh glass of lemonade in the, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Ice.
But on your entire body.
It's I want to say if you do the early morning thing, and then it's you just want to take a nap in the afternoon.
Oh, yeah.
It's get everything done by afternoon and then take a nap is kind of
that might be the very best thing about mornings.
Yeah.
Is you get to take a midday siesta.
Yeah. You can take a nap and you don't feel bad about it because you already got a bunch of stuff done.
Yeah.
That's when I talk about momentum and wins. But yeah. I guess kind of the feeling of the group and the men,
Yeah, with having the guys too as well, it was I would never push myself hard at all. And then having guys that could push me was, it's I'm dying, but I got these guys that are pushing me to not quit when I would have quit. Actually, I wouldn't have gotten up without them. So I think in that regard, it was kind of valuable to just see, I was thinking actually for exercise, I was like, man, maybe actually we get a group of guys at the gym that are doing this. But essentially, when I was running, I would want to give up, but I'd have David or John or Adam or who else do we have there?
Max.
I was we would have one of them, keep going, and it reminded me a lot of that.
You'd always start walking, right? And we'd be like, keep going.
Yeah. It reminded me of, Hacksaw Ridge. There's a line when he's up on the mountain, and he's like, just one more, Lord, like just one more. And I was thinking of like that phrase where it's, help me not to cry, to give up, but to press up forward, or like to move forward. To like, I was like, man, like whenever I get any suffering, I'm like, let the suffering end, Lord, please. But it's like, I need to change my prayer to like, help me keep going forward. It was like, help me to keep going and not to give up. And that's my transition, I suppose you could say, with shifting into having all the guys help, is you had people that actively were like, keep going forward.
Yeah.
So yeah, the side cramps though, I remember especially at the beginning, it was like,
Oh man, dude.
Oh,
I
yeah.
had shin splints like when you haven't really run before, and you probably have it in proper shoes, and like you don't know any technique of like how to like not slam your feet down in a way that, you know what I mean? Like it's just like
Yeah,
it's like,
your
"Oh, my
shins go
shins!"
like, what are you doing?
Yeah, they're like we were just it's summer, right? You're in high school, right? We were just in the Bahamas of luxury and comfort, and now you're getting up at 7 a.m. and running. It's like when you've never done that before.
To your shins, it's like, why are you getting up and beating us up? Like, this doesn't make any sense. It's like getting them out of bed and just beating the crap out of them.
Right? Like even your whole body initially is screaming at you to like be mediocre and comfortable, and you have to overcome so much when you first start anything, like an exercise especially.
But at the same time, like for me, I've kind of recently kind of got this more with my more recent workouts, just because I've been
what have you been doing?
getting a lot more consistent with working out lately. That sometimes,
Preach it, man. Tell me.
like I get like that weak thought, like, oh, why don't I just stop now? This is kind of getting hard. But then I like kind of remember like how I felt when basically my entire life was just kind of all lame.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, well, I don't want to go back to that. And then I get angry about the part of me that's like a little weak, but then I feel that anger for me to keep going in the workout. And then I'm like, let's do it. And then I start doing sit-ups faster. I don't know.
Dude, you got to use what you have, you know?
Yeah.
You got to take the fuel that you got, and, it's actually, that's actually an interesting point of there's a podcast I was listening to by Ed Milet. He's a awesome entrepreneur, businessman, but really I think he's more of like a philanthropist and like, public figure of honestly, we love to get him on the show. He's an image of being a man, and love that guy. Anyways,
Ed, if you're listening, we'd love to have you on the show.
Absolutely. Wait for that call, that email, and but he said essentially like, I'm not going to get all into it, but the line I liked was pulling from this context of identity. And he's like, what is our identity? It's like, well, really, it's kind of a collection of the stories that we've had and what we've gone through. And we look back on what we've done, and we're able to kind of see the choices we've made that have formed kind of who we are. And so it's like, that's why as a kid, you're so happy, because there's no bad experiences or things you did that you're not proud of, or like that proved and showed that you were like lame or weak or lazy. It's like you haven't done any of that yet, so you're just happy. But it was kind of what you were saying of like, if I'm looking back at, like you said, I looked back at all these moments of kind of where I've been, and I don't know if you'd use the word kind of, what's the word you might use to describe your It
was just kind of like, I was just,
maybe that's it. Meh.
That's a pretty good word. I was just kind of like not really doing anything, so I didn't really have any purpose in my life. I was just kind of existing. Because at a certain point in my life, I just kind of played video games and worked, and that was it. That was my existence. And most of the time at work, I was just thinking about what different I would do in playing video games, even though it was just like a complete waste of time. I look at how much time I've spent playing video games, and it kind of makes me angry sometimes, because I'm like, wow, like I'd have like another year's worth of work if I worked during that amount of time.
Yeah, man. And so
or
and
more.
that's what you're bringing into this workout, though, is like,
Yeah.
I'm looking back at the decisions I've made and memories and stories of who I've been. It's like, I don't want this to be another one of those.
Yeah.
I want to look back and saw that I chose to do this workout and I put the fuck out to do something meaningful. And, it's like, because that's what, honestly, like, this is something I'm super passionate about now, but I think life is more about a collection of creating the stories that you want to look back on. And like, I want to look back on my life and look at the stories that I made. And in the moment I was like, I want this to be a story that I can remember, a new evidence of proof of who I am.
Yeah.
And rewriting the book. And I think that's the truth is we all have this. I have this book of my life. Danny, you have this book in your life. Adam, you have this book. And we're actually still writing. The pen's still on the page.
Mm-hmm.
And I think sometimes it's easy for me to, like when I was a kid to fall in, especially, when I was a kid, and I was totally excuse maker. I was always the victim. I was always like, oh, I don't feel like doing this. And, I would, any kind of discomfort or pain. I remember as a kid, like if I got mud or dirt on me, I was done. I would like withdraw from I'm at this party, right? And I withdraw from the social event that my family's at. And I was such a butt. I was like, I gotta go wash my hands and change my pants. And it was just like, I just didn't like it. And now I'm like, now I'll do a through hike 300 miles. And I was like, I didn't bring rain pants. I didn't bring waterproof shoes. I literally would walk through mud and water. And then guess what? I wore breathable shoes, lightweight shoes that would dry out as I walked. And, but you'll get blisters. And I'm like, well, yeah, if you wear jeans and cotton socks and your trainers, yeah, you will. But wear some wool socks that fit well. And, that's a whole nother can of worms. But really what I'm trying to say is like, that's kind of who I've been. And so I think that that's just the trajectory of my life is that I just keep reacting to things. And I've always just been kind of reacting. Oh, the mud. Oh, the dirt. Oh, this feels, instead it's like, what do I need to do? Who do I want to be? And this is kind of what I was saying. What story do I want to look back on and remember? That's a fun story, but it was also fun because I was a kid. I'm just going to pause actually on that. It was fun because looking about how like kind of whiny I was and sensitive to getting dirty because I was a kid. But like if that was me as an adult, I'd be like, wow, like if I could look at that guy or like some dude that's like powerlifting and like, yeah, I'd be like, wow, I was a pussy. Like I don't want to be that kind of an adult. That's not what it means to be a man. So but I get to rewrite that story. I'm not a reactive victim who responds to life around me. Like that's it, and that's really been empowering for me. I've gotten so much hope from it's just like yesterday when we were podcasting at it. I'm sitting looking at this whiteboard and I was just like, I'm so happy looking at this whiteboard. Like it just gives me so much joy and hope and vision of what we're gonna do. And who I want to become and what I get to do with creativeness on this whiteboard. And that's how I could look at my life. And that's the excitement I get realizing that I'm in control of that. And to me that fuels me. That's fuel that I can use. And anyways, that was just all a thought from your workout, and kind of the energy you take into that, and how that keeps you going on the things that you're supposed to be doing and that you need to be, the person you want to be.
Like your past the past chapters of your life that you were weak in, kind of motivate you to not go back to that and continue the story and to grow into like more of like a hero that you want to be. I definitely know like
Absolutely.
it wasn't just
absolutely.
It wasn't that like when I was just working and playing video games. This was when I was technically an adult, though I definitely wasn't acting like one. It's really not just the video games in and of themselves, because like if you play a little bit of video games here and there, it's not that big of a deal. It's just when it consumes your life, that's the issue. I really think it's more like what I felt when I was, relating to people in social situations, and like they would talk about topics. I'm like, I have nothing to input because I'm just thinking about video games right now because that's what half my life is. And then realizing like, oh, I'm socially awkward all the time because I just don't do things with my life, and kind of feeling like that it's almost like you feel kind of outcast because you're not fulfilling any kind of sort of purpose that you can kind of talk about and say like, oh, I'm moving forward in this.
Right.
I'm like, this is the cool thing that I'm up to. And like, the only time I'd be able to say, this is the cool thing I'm up to is if I'm talking with my friends who are also playing video games. And then I'm like, oh, this is the thing that I did in the video game that we play. And then I'd have an interesting conversation off of that. But if we weren't talking about video games, I couldn't really hold my own in like interesting conversation most of the time, which I think just made it like really awkward sometimes. And like, I hated that. So
yeah,
I think it's just because like I was letting my life be consumed by something that didn't actually serve a higher purpose other than just I'm consuming and being entertained and doing like this kind of false work in this game, which is what a lot of video games are. You're doing like work, but it's like work that they make it like fulfilling, like get your dopamine going like every like 10 seconds instead of 10 months.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, man. And that's not going to help you become a better man. That's going to keep you a slave to dopamine and the quick hits and pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
I spend just a couple more minutes here today. I don't know if there's anything kind of from yesterday, Adam, that stood out. Any lessons from the day, or Danny, you as well? Any quick short story lessons?
I don't know if it'd be short, but John was
You can go for it.
opening my eyes to a bigger vision.
Oh yeah. So I will precurse it with this is something that I think we're going to start going in the direction of, like we said yesterday on the podcast, of our documenting the journey of becoming a better man. And part of that is just kind of the things that we're learning, the lessons that we're learning, and the stories from our day to day. So, with that said, go for it, Dan.
Yeah, John came over to work at our shared workspace. I intentionally built my office so that way someone else could be in there as well, so it's not just me. And right now, essentially, we have a product that's awesome, but no one knows it exists. So the next step essentially is marketing and sales outreach. So we are trying to implement a sales funnel so we can essentially get customers through that method, I suppose you could say. I'm amazed at how many awesome tools there are. It's like there's really no reason like you shouldn't succeed, I guess, right now, because there's just so many like tools you can use that, like, you used to have to go door to door for this stuff, or like travel, like,
oh man, yeah,
like my client is schools, private schools, and like I'm just thinking of like, man, like if I had to manually drive to each school and like, well, I don't think my product would sell actually if we didn't have the internet, but
right.
But it's like, man, I could like currently we've been using LinkedIn, and we can find our customers through LinkedIn. And then I have automation software called Willaxy. It's in France, I think they're from, but essentially you're able to connect with a bunch of
I hear there's pretty awesome women in France.
This is France.
Français.
This is the finest.
It is a croissant.
Well, you two appear single, so I mean,
I've heard Paris smells really bad though.
Yeah.
The women are beautiful, but the stench.
But the whole city just smells like piss.
Oh man,
Have you ever been to Paris?
I've not been to Paris, so I can't like firsthand account this.
Just
but what I've
trash.
heard is that
Well-
it smells bad.
Well, my opinion is that it smells like poop.
all the French.
How would I know? I've never
So
been there.
if you're from France listening to this,
Don't take us seriously.
let us know if Paris smells like piss.
Yeah, comment in the comment and
comment section.
subscribe and tell us if it smells like piss. We'd like to know.
Email us at Email your questions in.
Yeah.
Do we have an email? We should have an email that people can email questions in.
Yeah, I'm gonna set it up. So this is a goal of.
So stay tuned in the next episode.
Yeah, stay tuned. We want to interact better. So
It'll be like askdmc@gmail.com.
no, we'll have our own
We'll
domain.
have our own domain.
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
Ask
it won't.
DMC
Gmail.
at DMC.
No.
Gmail nonsense. What do you think? I am?
Get
I'm not
that
a
Google out of here.
I'm not like a mom who's blogging.
Yeah. We could like have Ask Daniel at dmcglobal.com or something like that.
Yeah.
Or since I'm not the main one, maybe Ask John or Adam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyways, this software was developed in France. You were saying.
Yes. Oh, yeah, that's right. I get off topic easy, boys.
We get off topic easy.
So I can run a campaign, though. I'm able to import. They let you import 1,000 of the search results into the software, but it stays within the LinkedIn parameters, so you don't get your account banned. Because that would be unfortunate.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like you need to stay inside the bounds while
Yeah,
doing this. Because if you spammed everybody, then you
Yeah,
get like
they-
flagged for being
they
like
don't want spam.
like a bot, right?
Correct.
Okay.
So,
You have to be human about this.
yes, and I mean that's always the hope, is that you don't come off as spam in your outreach. You just want to, that be professional with it and not waste people's time. And so, but we've been using that, and we only needed one customer to pay for the full year, so it's kind of worth it. But I'm amazed at how many people I've connected with who now interact with my posts from other schools that I'll post like their behind the scenes or their premiere their films and whatnot, and they'll just start like liking and commenting on the stuff. And I was like,
Dang.
I have never met these people, and they're already like interacting with my stuff. So, because they know
That's a big one.
I think
That's because your product's really good.
it's like they
yeah.
know each other from their own little community. So to like just join the community essentially and give them a place where they can interact has kind of been fun to like see that happen. So,
Wow.
so yeah, we've been working on that, but now we're looking at doing, ClickFunnels is the ideal. So
Yeah.
we still have a few things to hash out with that. So we'll let you know how that goes in further episodes.
Yeah.
Building the business.
Yeah. Absolutely.
If you're just tuning in and don't know what ClickFunnels are, you have some Google searching to do. But
Absolutely.
it's basically a way that you do kind of an internet sales presentation, like automatically from like ads from social media into getting someone to buy a product.
Yeah. It's kind of like a website, but not a website.
Yeah.
Because websites are like a giant maze with 300 pages you could go to. But a funnel gets you right to the groceries, which is what you want. You just want to check out. Yeah, man, this is good. And we're gonna sign off here, but we'll continue to document and give our updates here. And for all the listeners, Adam, you want to set us out here with some encouragement and some words?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it's just, hey, if there's any times where you feel like, oh no, like I'm being like kind of weak right now, don't like beat yourself up for that. Just kind of be like, hey, I don't want to be that, so I'm gonna go do the other thing and take actions towards that. That's something that I've been learning a lot recently through like even the workouts, the example that I used earlier. Like sometimes you got to be like detached from like that part of you that's like saying like, oh, you're weak, and be like, no, I'm just gonna not do that. I'm gonna be strong. And sometimes it takes you a little bit to get there, but you keep pushing, keep going, you're gonna do it. It's a momentum thing. The beginning is the hardest part. The first time's the hardest, second time's second hardest, but it gets easier as you continue. So don't be afraid to absolutely send it.
Woo! They say it takes 20 hours to get good at something, and was it 10,000 hours to get
Master
of it.
Yeah.
So just don't be the one who doesn't even take the first hour.
Yeah.
Also, 20 hours, you could do that in a single day if you just like binged.
Red
So,
Bull.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, well, you guys have been listening to the Dangerous Man podcast. Tune in next time. We look forward to seeing you. And until then, stay dangerous.